Deciding on the paint for my small home office's newly plastered walls. Welcome to this episode. It's day 26. Quick preview of what's to come. There's a few ideas of how you should paint fresh plaster. There's loads of paint options out there where you can plaster them. I'm going to show you a couple of options, how I did it, what I did, the paint I brought, and a kind of a trick that decorators use a lot. So we went down to Homebase, had a look at the selection of paints. They've got a lot of fancy paint options. The idea in the small home office is it's 8 foot by about 16 feet. I picked up a few different paint options, and those were pure brilliant white silk, which will be the final layer, and then one of the walls will be an accent wall, like a darker color, ruby chocolate. The idea is if you have a long deep room, if you have one dark wall, it makes the room look a bit better. You'll notice that we got crown emulsion, matte emulsion on the back of this tub. You can pause that. It says you can water down the paint. What that means is you put water and paint and you mix it, and that's the first coat. You'll see I prep the area first, so the decorating of this is all me now. So if you notice on the previous episodes, this is a small home office build and you're following along. Thank you for joining me. It's freshly built. It looks smaller again now. If you remember throughout the series, the room looked big, it looked small, and now it looks small again. What I've got here is I'm putting down some deco. So you'll notice that the shower room hasn't been completed here. This I did this initial stage while the builder was still here doing his stuff. So this video is a culmination of all the painting stuff from multiple days throughout this project, which I've put together. I wanted to keep it in one video. So you'll notice the shower hasn't gone in, but I'm painting the wall because obviously that bit was finished. You'll see here there's 3 different scenarios here. In one of them I mixed 50% water and 50% paint, and that still scratches. In another one I mixed less paint and more water. So I was using the scoop. So it's like 2 scoops, 2 paint. I did 1 scoop, 3 water, and I found the right ratio. I did a little test batch, left it for a day to see which one worked best. And then what I did was I sanded down all the plaster, which you saw earlier just before this, and you'll see the mix of paint. So the first thing I did was scoop out some paint into a big plastic tub and then put water in that and then mix that together, and then did the little test of what you saw earlier, and that all was okay. And my ratio for fresh plaster is very watery, but you want to seal the plaster. It sucks a lot of water when you freshly paint plaster. So in this example here I had 2 or 3 scoops, 3 scoops of water to 1 scoop of paint. If you use this matte emulsion, when it comes out of the tub it's very, very thick. So the idea here is we want to water it down so we can give everything a coat and let it suck up the water, leaving the paint behind. Make sure the paint you buy allows you to water it down, because not all paint allows you to water it down. This was matte emulsion, the Crown brand. You can get that at Homebase, you can get it at Wix. If you're in the UK, it's available in most places. Leave your plaster to dry as long as possible. You'll notice on my plaster walls they were dried, but in the day, depending on the moisture of the day, little moisture patches were appearing. The reason for that was, if you go back to the previous episode, you remember they dabbed on adhesive and put plasterboards directly to the masonry walls, and depending on the day is sucking moisture and kind of drying out, taking a long time. So you'll notice here I'm using a normal roller, and what I did use was one of those long painting decorating poles, which made life a lot easier. This is sped up like a time-lapse video you're seeing, but I was able to do half the room, ceiling and the walls within like 3-4 hours. No, not even 3-4 hours. That was multiple coats. About an hour I was able to do that. I gave it 3 coats of this mix. I let it dry, half an hour in between, and I kept going and seeing the spots. See there, I left it to dry, and then I will come back and then go through the different segments. You'll notice this wall here that I'm washing, I haven't painted that yet. So what I did do was sugar soap. It's like a type of thing you can get in decorating shops. I use a sponge and a light dilution of that just to wash the walls down first, let it dry a bit, and then painted. So that made sure that it did not suck out all the water from the paint. The main thing that you get issues with here is the water. The new plaster just keeps sucking up all the moisture from the paint. So you'll see this is the second coat I'm going around now. And as I do this, I also go through the corners with my hand like a little tub, and this is very watery. You'll see it dripping on the floor. But yeah, you know, it's something that you need to keep an eye on. A lot of people make this overly complicated. In my ratio, I did 1 scoop, whatever you want to use. I use like a kettle, a hand kettle. When you say kettle, it's called like a painting decorating kettle for paint. Scoop of paint, 3 scoops of water. Whatever you decide to use the same ratio and you should be okay if it's fresh plaster. And if you're using the same brand as me, you'll definitely be okay. If you're using Crown, because I know what that's like. And then as time passes, I'm basically going through and making a new batch and doing another section. So you'll see that it's something that needs time. It will be... see that wall in the back that looked dry? Yeah, I was actually wet because the paint wasn't adhering to that section. So I went around and went through and pushed through the painting section of this. So I'm basically mixing down the matte emulsion, letting that do its thing. This is a time lapse of the full like half room. This is like 6 meters by 3 meters the room is. So work that out in feet. It's quite a big room, and the ceiling as well. I'll show you little other segments that I recorded on my mobile phone as I was doing this so you can see it. This is the other section of the wall, the other half of the room. The plaster here looks a little bit wet, and that was because I went around with a sponge and washed the walls, because when they put the floor down, the cement, a lot of that cement splashed back on the walls. So I wanted to wash that off and get a clean adhesion for the paint. So you'll see this is a second layer now. I've already done 1 layer. I'm going around the second layer. You can slowly see the white becoming whiter, and give it about half an hour between coats. And if you can help it, give it a longer period of time. I wanted to get a light mist coat, they call this, down, and that allowed me to basically get a lot of the paint down. So you'll see how watery the paint is. That's 1, 2, 3. So 1 paint to 3 water, and still as it's drying you can see spots of wet. So what I did do was I gave it something like 3 coats of this and slowly upped the ratio. So like 1 paint, 3 water, then 2 paint, 2 water, then 3 paint, 1 water, and then finally the final coat of thick paint, and I'm going to give it 2 coats of thick paint. So it's basically a lot of coats, but the reason I'm doing it this way is at least the walls are sucking up the paint. They're going to have good adhesion, and you can feel when it's dry and if there's any powdery residue or not. So you'll see these are not going to be powdering off. So the main thing here is keep it consistent, slowly work through the pace and see how you get this. So see, this is like a 50-50 mix now. It's not as watery as the first 1 to 3, and this works because you're sealing the walls, and as the walls are being sealed you're basically creating, see that? So you can see how that goes and applies on. And I purposely left a section here by the light switch where I did a 50-50 mix to see how well that does over time with the other walls. So other walls, 1 paint, 3 water. This one was 2 paint, 2 water. And slowly looking around the room, it's kind of at a point now where it's getting there. It's getting a nice mist coat. So I left this to dry for a couple of days, and then I did the window sills and then gave it thicker coats, and the ceiling needs another coat as well. And remember, this is all from Homebase. So I went into Homebase, had a look around, and I went to Wix, and I got actually a good deal on the paint because I was able to pick up the paint, the big tubs, the 10-litre tubs. I was able to pick them up for £5 each, and I got 2 of those because they were on special deal. And then I got a final silk coat as well, and I got some Ron Seal, and the Ron Seal is going to be for the doors that I'm putting in. I've also got this silk, which is going to be the final coat. I want it to be a wipe clean, because matte always seems to attract anything you, like furniture touches it, it makes marks. I remember I have 1 ruby wall as well. So over time this process will get easier because you're obviously putting more coats down. The room looks a lot smaller now because all the walls are white. See here now? This is like something like 3 coats of the water stuff and then 2 coats of the water and paint, so 50-50. That allowed us to get good, and you'll see some of this is a bit shiny. The shiny bit is where I put the silk on, the silk emulsion. So you'll see here, this is where the silk is going on now, and the silk is a little bit more shiny basically. I wanted the final finish in the bathroom anyway to be shiny, and that had multiple coats. So because the bathroom was small, I just kept giving it lots of coats. And the smaller roller helps as well get the hard to reach places. I've also progressed on from here, so I have done a lot more work since the painting. So this is all catching up on the videos I made. I've put the doors in, we've done the skirting, so make sure to check out the next episode in this series, which will be on screen right now.